In the glittering ballroom on Christmas night, a black single father was asked to play a lullaby on the old grand piano. But the moment the melody rang out, the powerful CEO froze. It was the only song her first love, who died 16 years ago, had ever written for her. A secret no one else knew. So why could this nameless black man, working as a maintenance worker and raising his daughter alone, play that exact song? And why did every note sound like it came from someone who understood the music deeper than even the composer himself? Marcus Reed stood at the edge of the grand ballroom, mop in hand, watching the crystal chandeliers cast golden light across marble floors. The Whitmore Corporation Christmas party was in full swing. Women in silk gowns glided past. Men in tailored suits held glasses of champagne that cost more than Marcus made in a week. He had worked maintenance here for 8 years. He knew how to be invisible. His daughter Lila sat on a bench near the service hallway, swinging her legs. She was 7 years old, wearing a red dress Marcus had bought from a thrift store and carefully ironed that morning. Her hair was pulled back with ribbons. She looked at the Christmas tree in the center of the ballroom like it was something from a fairy tale. Marcus had brought her tonight because the sitter cancelled. He told her to stay quiet, stay out of the way. But Lila was curious. She always had been. The ballroom belonged to people who built empires. Marcus cleaned their floors. That was the arrangement. That was how the world worked. Evelyn Whitmore stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She was 34 years old and had run the corporation for 3 years since her father stepped back. People called her cold. They said she made decisions like a machine. No hesitation, no sentiment. Tonight she wore a black dress with a high collar and her hair pulled back tight. She looked like someone who had learned to armor herself against the world. Her fiancé, Caleb Hart, stood beside her, one hand resting on the small of her back. He smiled at investors and board members. He was good at that. Caleb came from old money. His family owned half the commercial real estate downtown. The engagement had been announced 6 months ago. The wedding was scheduled for spring. It made sense on paper. Power marrying power. Evelyn held a glass of wine but had not taken a sip. She was thinking about something else. She was always thinking about something else. 16 years ago, she had loved someone. His name was Julian Brooks. He played piano like he was speaking a language no one else understood. He wrote a song for her called Starlit Promise. He played it once in a small practice room with terrible lighting and a broken heater. He told her she was the only star he would ever chase. Then he died in a car accident 3 months later. Evelyn was 18. She kept the sheet music in a locked drawer in her office. She never told anyone about it. Not her father, not Caleb. Some things were too fragile to share. She looked across the ballroom and saw Marcus wiping down a table near the entrance. She had seen him before. Quiet man. Worked hard. Kept his head down. She did not know his name. Lila could not sit still any longer. She slipped off the bench and wandered toward the center of the ballroom, where the Christmas tree stood 15 feet tall. The ornaments sparkled. She wanted to see them up close. She did not see the catering staff carrying trays through the side entrance. She stepped into the VIP section, where the marble floor had just been polished. Her shoe caught on the edge of a rug. She fell hard. Her knee hit the stone. She cried out. Marcus dropped the mop and ran. He pushed past a waiter and dropped to his knees beside his daughter. Blood seeped through a tear in her tights. She was crying, clutching his shirt. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. Let me see." Marcus lifted her gently, checking her knee. It was not serious. A scrape. But Lila was shaking. People turned to look. Conversations stopped. Marcus felt the weight of every eye in the room. Caleb Hart stepped forward. His voice was loud enough to carry. "This is a private event for employees and their families who contribute to this company." Caleb looked down at Marcus. Not for people like you and your kid. The room went silent. Marcus swallowed. He kept his eyes down. I'll take her home. I apologize for the disturbance. Caleb adjusted his cufflinks. He looked at the people around him like he was performing for an audience. You work here, right? Maintenance? Maybe you should focus on doing your job instead of letting your daughter run wild in places she doesn't belong. Marcus stood slowly, holding Lila against his chest. Her face was buried in his shoulder. He wanted to leave. He wanted to disappear. He had spent 8 years making sure no one noticed him. Now everyone was staring. Evelyn moved through the crowd. Her heels clicked against the marble. She stopped directly in front of Caleb. Apologize. Her voice was quiet, cold. Caleb blinked. He smiled like she was joking. Evelyn, I was just... Apologize. Now! Caleb's smile faded. He looked around. Board members watched. Investors watched. His jaw tightened. I don't think that's necessary. I was simply pointing out... Evelyn cut him off. Her voice did not rise. It did not need to. You insulted a member of my staff and his child, in my building, at my event. Apologize or leave. The silence stretched. Caleb's face turned red. He looked at Marcus, then back at Evelyn. Finally, he forced the words out. I apologize. Evelyn turned to Marcus. Her expression softened slightly. Is your daughter all right? We have a medical team on the 2nd floor if she needs attention. Marcus nodded. His throat felt tight. Thank you. She's okay. Just scared. Evelyn glanced at Lila, still trembling in her father's arms. Then she looked back at Marcus. Take your time. No one will bother you. She walked away. Caleb followed her, his face tight with anger. The crowd slowly returned to their conversations. Marcus carried Lila toward the service exit. But before he could reach the door, Lila whispered something against his neck. Daddy, I want you to play piano. Like at home. I'm sleepy. Marcus stopped. His chest tightened. He had not touched a piano in front of anyone in 8 years. Not since the accident. Not since the doctors told him the nerve damage in his right hand was permanent. He could still play, but not the way he used to. Not the way that mattered. Baby, not here. Let's go home. Lila lifted her head. Tears streaked her cheeks. Please, Daddy, just one song. The pretty one. People were still watching. Marcus felt their eyes. He looked across the ballroom and saw the grand piano in the corner. It was meant for the professional musicians scheduled to perform later. No one was using it now. Evelyn had not left. She stood near the windows watching. She heard Lila's request. She walked back over. The piano is available if she needs it. Evelyn's voice was calm. Sometimes music helps. Marcus looked at her. He did not understand why she was being kind. People like her were never kind to people like him. But Lila was still shaking, still crying softly. And the only thing that ever calmed her down was music. He carried her to the piano, set her down gently on the bench beside him. His hands hovered over the keys. They were shaking. He had not done this in so long, not in front of strangers, not in a room full of people who saw him as nothing. But Lila leaned against his side. She was waiting. Marcus placed his damaged right hand on the keys. The fingers did not bend the way they used to, but they remembered. He began to play. The first notes of Starlit Promise filled the ballroom. The melody was soft, delicate. It moved like a confession, like something too fragile to say out loud. The left hand carried the foundation. The right hand, even broken, found the notes that mattered. Marcus had written most of this song 16 years ago. Julian Brooks had started it. They were best friends back then. They wrote music together in a cramped apartment with a keyboard that had 3 broken keys. Julian had the name, the connections, the scholarship offers. Marcus had the talent that no one wanted to see. When Julian fell in love with Evelyn, he asked Marcus to help him write something that would make her understand how he felt. Marcus poured everything into it, every note, every silence. He built the architecture of the song while Julian played the melody. But when Julian presented it to Evelyn, only his name was on the sheet music. Marcus said nothing. Julian promised he would fix it later. Share the credit, make it right. Then Julian died, and Marcus kept the secret buried. The accident happened 2 years after that. Marcus was rehearsing at an old theatre owned by Whitmore Productions. The lighting rig had not been maintained properly. Budget cuts, deferred repairs. The rig collapsed during a solo performance. It crushed his right hand and ended any hope of a professional career. The company paid him $12,000 and made him sign an agreement. No lawsuit, no public statement. Just go away. So he did. He disappeared from the music world. He took odd jobs for years, moving from city to city, trying to stay away from anything connected to music or the people who had destroyed him. Then, 6 years ago, he settled back here with Lila after her mother left. He needed stability for his daughter. He found work at Whitmore Corporation 2 years later, 8 years after the accident. He thought no one would recognize him. He thought he could hide in plain sight. He raised his daughter alone. He never touched a piano in public again. Until tonight. Across the ballroom, Evelyn stood frozen. The wine glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the marble floor, red liquid spreading like blood. She knew this song. Every note. Every breath. Julian had played it for her once in a practice room 16 years ago. He told her it was his gift to her. His promise. No one else knew it existed. She kept the only copy locked away. But this man, this maintenance worker she had never spoken to, was playing it perfectly. Not just the notes. The feeling. The intention behind every phrase. How? Evelyn's heart was pounding. She could not move. Could not breathe. Marcus finished the song. Lila had fallen asleep against his shoulder. The ballroom erupted in polite applause. People smiled and returned to their conversations. They had no idea what they had just heard. Marcus stood carefully, lifting his daughter. He did not look at anyone. He walked toward the exit, head down, the way he always did. But Evelyn was still standing by the shattered wine glass, staring at the empty piano bench. She knew that song. She knew every measure, and she had just heard a ghost. Evelyn did not sleep that night. She sat in her office on the 42nd floor, the city lights stretching endlessly below. The locked drawer in her desk was open. Inside was a single sheet of yellowed paper. Sheet music. Starlit Promise. Julian's handwriting at the top, his signature at the bottom. She had listened to that song hundreds of times in her head over the years. Every note was carved into her memory. And tonight, a maintenance worker had played it exactly as Julian had. Note for note. Breath for breath. It was not possible. She pulled up the employee database on her computer, searched for maintenance staff hired in the last 10 years, found him on the 3rd page. Marcus Reed. Hired 8 years ago. No prior employment history listed. Emergency contact, none. Address, an apartment building on the east side. She stared at his photo on the file. Quiet eyes. A face that had learned not to ask for anything. Evelyn opened another file. Archived documents from Julian's time at the conservatory. She had requested them years ago, unable to let go. She scrolled through recital programs, scholarship records, composition credits. Then she saw it. A draft manuscript dated 16 years ago. Starlit Promise, Preliminary sketch. 2 names listed as collaborators, Julian Brooks and Marcus Reed. But in the final version, the one Julian had given her, only Julian's name remained. Evelyn's hands were shaking. She clicked deeper, found another document. An incident report from Whitmore Productions, dated 14 years ago. Location, the Marquee Theatre downtown. A lighting rig collapsed during a private rehearsal. 1 injury. Severity, permanent nerve damage to right hand. Victim, Marcus Reed, performing pianist. Settlement, $12,000. Agreement, no legal action, no public disclosure. Approval signature, Richard Whitmore. Her father. Evelyn closed the laptop. She felt sick. The next morning she made a phone call. It took 3 tries to get through. Thomas Hale had been Julian's mentor at the conservatory. He was 70 now, retired, living in a small house upstate. He did not answer phone calls from strangers, but when Evelyn mentioned Julian's name, he picked up. They met 2 days later at a cafe near the old conservatory building. Thomas wore a wool sweater and thick glasses. He moved slowly, his hands stiff with arthritis. He ordered black coffee and sat across from Evelyn with the careful posture of someone who had spent a lifetime teaching. Evelyn did not waste time. She told him about the Christmas party, about Marcus Reed, about the song. Thomas listened without interrupting. When she finished, he set down his coffee cup. His hands were trembling slightly. I wondered when someone would finally ask. His voice was soft, tired. Evelyn leaned forward. Ask what? Thomas looked out the window at the conservatory across the street, the building where Julian and Marcus had spent years together. Julian was brilliant. Everyone knew it. He had the name, the family connections, the stage presence. But Marcus? Thomas shook his head. Marcus was the one who understood music the way most people never will. He heard things no one else could hear. He built structures inside melodies that made them breathe. Thomas reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a worn notebook. He opened it carefully. Inside were pages of handwritten notes, composition drafts, 2 different handwriting styles woven together. They were best friends, collaborators. Julian would start a piece and Marcus would finish it. Or the other way around. They pushed each other, but the world only wanted to see Julian. Evelyn stared at the notebook. Why? Thomas gave her a sad smile. Because Julian looked the part. Because his family had money. Because Marcus was a black kid from the East Side who played piano in a church basement before he got a scholarship. The conservatory wanted success stories they could put on brochures. Marcus was talented, but he was not marketable. Thomas turned the pages slowly, stopped on a draft labeled Starlet Promise. Julian started this one. Just the opening melody. He was in love with you, and he wanted to give you something that mattered. But he could not finish it. He tried for weeks. Then he asked Marcus for help. Thomas pointed to the second half of the composition. Different handwriting. Tighter. More deliberate. Marcus wrote the rest. The harmony, the resolution, the soul of the piece. He turned Julian's sketch into something real. Evelyn felt her throat tighten. Did Julian take credit for it? Thomas closed the notebook. Julian was under pressure. His family threatened to pull funding if he did not secure a major scholarship. The competition was brutal. Starlet Promise was supposed to be his showcase piece. If he admitted Marcus co-wrote it, the judges would have questioned everything. So Julian made a choice. Thomas looked at Evelyn directly. He told Marcus he would share credit later, after the scholarship, after things settled. Marcus agreed because he trusted him, because they were brothers. Evelyn's voice was barely a whisper. But Julian died. Thomas nodded. 3 months later, and Marcus never said anything. He let Julian keep the legacy. But then the accident happened. Evelyn already knew. She had read the report, but hearing it out loud made it real. Thomas continued. Marcus was rehearsing at the Marquee Theatre. It was owned by Whitmore Productions back then. The building was falling apart. Budget cuts, deferred maintenance. During his performance, a lighting rig collapsed. It destroyed his right hand, ended his career before it started. Thomas's voice hardened. Your father's company paid him $12,000 and made him sign away his right to speak. Marcus took the money because he had no choice. He disappeared after that. I tried to find him. I wanted to help, but he was gone. Evelyn sat back in her chair. The room felt too small. Why didn't he ever say anything? About the music? About Julian? Thomas looked at her with something close to pity. Because people like Marcus learn early that no one will believe them. Because fighting power means losing everything. He chose survival. He chose silence. Evelyn left the cafe with the notebook. Thomas let her take it. He said he had been waiting 16 years for someone to care. She went back to her office and pulled Marcus Reed's file again. She called HR, asked if he had submitted his resignation. They told her he had. 2 days ago. Effective immediately. She found his address and drove to the east side. The apartment building was old but clean. She climbed 3 flights of stairs and knocked on Unit 12. No answer. She knocked again. A neighbor opened the door across the hall. An older woman holding a grocery bag. He moved out yesterday. Him and his little girl. Did not say where. Evelyn stood in the empty hallway. She had spent 2 days searching for the truth, and now the one person who could confirm it was gone. She understood why. She had sent investigators to his workplace. She had asked questions. She had used her power to dig into his life. And Marcus Reed had learned a long time ago what happened when powerful people paid attention to him. He ran. 1 week later, Evelyn was in her office when security called. A visitor in the lobby. No appointment. He was asking to see her. It was Marcus Reed. Evelyn told security to send him up. Marcus walked into her office slowly. He wore the same jacket he had worn at the Christmas party. Lila was not with him. He stood near the door like he might need to leave quickly. Evelyn gestured to the chair across from her desk. Please, sit. Marcus sat. He kept his hands in his lap. His right hand, the damaged one, curled slightly inward. Evelyn did not make him wait. I know about the song. I know you wrote most of it. Marcus did not react. He just looked at her. I know about the accident, about the settlement, about my father. Marcus finally spoke. His voice was quiet. I did not come here to cause problems. I just wanted you to know I did not mean to play that song. My daughter asked. I could not say no. Evelyn shook her head. You do not owe me an explanation. Marcus looked down at his hands. Julian was my best friend. When he asked me to help with that song, I said yes because I wanted him to be happy. He was in love with you. He wanted to give you something perfect. So I gave him everything I had. His voice cracked slightly. When he put his name on it, I told myself it did not matter. The music existed. That was enough. And then he died, and I thought maybe I should say something. But who would believe me? A kid from the East Side claiming he wrote a song for a rich girl and her famous boyfriend? Evelyn felt tears behind her eyes. She did not let them fall. And the accident? Marcus's jaw tightened. I was rehearsing at the Marquee. I had one shot at a real performance, one audition that could change everything. But the building was a disaster. Everyone knew it. The owners did not care. During my solo, the rig fell. I woke up in the hospital with pins in my hand and a lawyer at my bedside. He looked up at Evelyn. They offered me $12,000, told me if I took it I could walk away. If I did not, they would bury me in legal fees I could never afford. So I took it. I signed the paper, and I disappeared. The door to Evelyn's office opened without warning. Richard Whitmore stepped inside, followed by Caleb Hart. Richard still had security clearance as former chairman. They had been waiting in the outer office and heard everything through the assistant's intercom line. Richard looked at Marcus with cold disdain. "So this is what this is about. You come to my daughter's office with a sob story, hoping for what? More money?" Marcus stood slowly. "I did not ask for anything." Richard stepped closer. "You signed a settlement 14 years ago, legally binding. You took the money. That case is closed." Caleb crossed his arms. "And this fantasy about writing Julian Brooks's music. You expect anyone to believe that? Julian was a genius. You were a maintenance worker." Marcus's voice stayed level. "I was a pianist, before your building destroyed my hand." Richard laughed. It was cruel. "You were a nobody. You still are. The only reason you are in this office is because my daughter has a soft spot for charity cases." Evelyn stood. "Get out." Richard turned to her. "Evelyn." Her voice was ice. "Both of you, get out of my office, now." Caleb started to protest. Evelyn cut him off. "If you are not gone in 10 seconds, I will have security remove you." Richard stared at his daughter like he did not recognize her. Then he turned and walked out. Caleb followed, slamming the door behind him. Marcus stood in the center of the room. He looked exhausted. "I should go." Evelyn moved around her desk. "No, stay." Marcus shook his head. "You have enough problems. I do not want to add to them." He reached the door. His hand was on the handle. Evelyn spoke quietly. "Julian loved you. He told me once that you were the most talented person he ever met. He said you heard music the way most people hear their own heartbeat." Marcus stopped. He did not turn around. "Then he told me you disappeared, and he did not know why. He was looking for you when he died." Marcus's shoulders sagged. "I know." He opened the door and walked out. Evelyn stood alone in her office, surrounded by glass walls and power she no longer wanted. For the first time in 16 years, she knew the truth. And it was destroying everything she thought she understood. Evelyn sat alone in her office for 3 hours after Marcus left. The city darkened outside the windows. She did not turn on the lights. She thought about Julian, about the song he had given her, about the lie she had believed for 16 years. She thought about Marcus Reed playing that melody with a broken hand while his daughter slept against his shoulder. She thought about her father's signature on a settlement agreement that had destroyed a man's life. She thought about what kind of person she had become, what kind of legacy she was protecting. At 9 o'clock that night, she went home to the penthouse she shared with Caleb. He was waiting in the living room, drinking scotch. He did not look up when she walked in. "Your father is furious. He thinks you have lost your mind." Caleb swirled his glass. "I'm starting to agree with him." Evelyn set her bag down. "I need to see something." She walked to her study and pulled out an old box from the closet. Inside were videos from the conservatory, recordings of Julian's performances, interviews. She had watched them countless times over the years, but tonight she was looking for something specific. She found it on the 4th tape. An interview Julian gave 3 weeks before he died. He was sitting in a practice room, looking tired. The interviewer asked him about his creative process. Julian's answer was careful. "In music, people remember the person on stage. the name on the program. But the real genius is often someone you never see, someone who does not ask for credit, someone who just loves the music enough to let it exist. His voice shook slightly when he said it. Evelyn had never noticed before. The interviewer asked if he was talking about anyone specific. Julian smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. I am talking about the people who make us better than we are, the people we fail. Evelyn stopped the tape. She understood now. Julian had been talking about Marcus. He had been carrying the guilt. He had been planning to make it right. But he ran out of time. Caleb appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? Evelyn turned off the television. I am ending our engagement. Caleb stared at her. Then he laughed. You are not serious. Evelyn pulled the ring off her finger and set it on the desk between them. I am. Caleb's expression hardened. Because of that maintenance worker. Because of some story about a song. Evelyn met his eyes. Because I have spent 16 years building my life on something that was not true. And I am not doing it anymore. Caleb stepped closer. His voice dropped. If you do this, my family will pull every investment from Whitmore Corporation. We will make sure the press destroys you. You will lose everything. Evelyn picked up her phone. Then I lose everything. She walked past him. Caleb grabbed her arm. You are making a mistake. Evelyn pulled free. The mistake was saying yes to you in the first place. She left the penthouse that night, took nothing but her laptop and the box of Julian's recordings. She checked into a hotel and did not sleep. Instead, she made a list of everything she needed to do. The next morning, she called an emergency board meeting. Richard Whitmore arrived expecting a private conversation with his daughter. Instead, he walked into a conference room filled with 12 board members, the company's legal counsel, and a recording secretary. Evelyn stood at the head of the table. She had not slept, but her voice was steady. I am presenting evidence of corporate negligence and misconduct related to a settlement case from 14 years ago. Richard's face went pale. Evelyn pulled up documents on the screen behind her. The incident report from the Marquis Theatre. Maintenance records showing repeated safety violations. Budget memos showing her father's approval to defer repairs. The settlement agreement with Marcus Reed. The non-disclosure clause. She walked the board through every detail. No emotion, just facts. This company paid $12,000 to silence a victim of our negligence. We destroyed a man's career and threatened him into silence. That man is Marcus Reed. He currently works in our maintenance department. And this board needs to decide if that represents the values we claim to uphold. Richard stood. This is a closed case, legally resolved. Bringing it up now serves no purpose except to damage this company's reputation. Evelyn looked at him directly. It damages your reputation, not the company's. Richard's voice rose. I built this company. I made the decisions that kept it profitable. You think you can stand there and judge me? Evelyn did not flinch. I am not judging you. I am holding you accountable. The board voted. It took less than 20 minutes. Richard Whitmore was asked to resign as chairman emeritus. Evelyn was named sole chair and CEO. 3 board members resigned in protest. The rest stayed. Richard left the building without speaking to his daughter. That afternoon, Evelyn held a press conference. She stood in front of cameras and reporters and told the truth. About the accident. About the settlement. About Marcus Reed. She did not mention the song. That was private. But she made it clear that Whitmore Corporation had failed in its responsibility and that she intended to make it right. The press tore into the story. Some outlets praised her transparency. Others accused her of throwing her father under the bus for publicity. Caleb's family released a statement condemning her. The stock price dropped 8% in 2 days. Evelyn did not care. She found Marcus Reed's address through HR. The new one. A small rental house on the north side. She drove there alone. Knocked on the door. Lila answered. She recognized Evelyn from the Christmas party and smiled. "Daddy, the nice lady is here." Marcus appeared behind his daughter. He looked surprised. Wary. Evelyn spoke before he could say anything. "I need you to come with me. Please." Marcus did not move. "Where?" Evelyn met his eyes. "To get your life back." They drove to the conservatory. Thomas Hale was waiting in the old practice room where Julian and Marcus used to work. He had brought his notebook, the one with the original drafts of Starlit Promise. Evelyn had also brought something. A box of Julian's archives, letters, composition notes, and a video recording she had found buried in the conservatory's storage. She played it on the old television in the corner. The video showed Julian and Marcus in this same practice room 16 years ago. They were young, laughing. Julian played a melody on the piano. Marcus listened, then added a harmony. They went back and forth, building something together. At the end of the video, Julian looked at the camera. "This is Marcus Reed. He is the best composer I know. Everything I do is better because of him." Marcus had not seen this video before. He sat down heavily in one of the old chairs. His hands were shaking. Thomas spoke quietly. "Julian recorded this a week before he died. He told me he was planning to go public, to share credit for everything. He was waiting for the right moment." Evelyn knelt beside Marcus's chair. "He ran out of time, but I am not going to." She showed him the documents she had prepared. A formal acknowledgement from Whitmore Corporation, an apology, a settlement offer 10 times what he had received before, and something else. A scholarship fund. The Julian Brooks and Marcus Reed Memorial Scholarship for young musicians from underserved communities. Full tuition. No strings. Marcus read through the papers. He did not speak for a long time. When he finally looked up, his eyes were wet. "Why are you doing this?" Evelyn's voice was quiet. "Because Julian loved you. And because you deserved better than what this world gave you." She stood. "And because I want to live in a world where people like you do not have to disappear." Marcus signed the papers. Thomas witnessed. Evelyn made copies. That night, the conservatory held an emergency meeting. They agreed to issue a formal correction to Julian Brooks's legacy. Marcus Reed would be credited as co-composer on Starlit Promise and 3 other major works. His name would be added to the memorial plaque in the lobby. The press picked up the story. Some people accused Evelyn of rewriting history. Others called it long overdue. Marcus gave one interview. He was quiet, dignified. He said he did not want fame. He just wanted the truth to exist. 3 months later, Marcus did not return to the maintenance job. Instead, he started teaching piano. He worked with kids from the East Side, kids who could not afford lessons. He taught them in the same church basement where he had learned as a child. Evelyn visited the Whitmore Corporation building less often now. She had restructured the company, sold off divisions, focused on sustainable practices and worker protections. The stock price recovered. Some of the board members who left came back. Others did not. Caleb Hart married someone else 6 months later, a woman from a banking family. They had a wedding that made the society pages. Evelyn did not attend. Richard Whitmore moved to a house upstate. He did not speak to his daughter. She sent him a letter once. He never replied. 1 year after the Christmas party, Evelyn received an invitation. The Brooks Reed Scholarship Fund was holding its first benefit concert. The venue was the Marquee Theatre, fully renovated and renamed Brooks Reed Hall. Evelyn arrived early. The theatre was beautiful. New lighting, new seats, a grand piano on stage that looked like it had been built specifically for this room. Marcus was backstage with Lila. She was 8 now, wearing a blue dress and holding sheet music. She saw Evelyn and ran over. "Are you going to listen to us play?" Evelyn smiled. "I would not miss it." The concert began at 7. The hall was full. Students from the scholarship program performed first. Then Thomas Hale gave a short speech about Julian and Marcus, about friendship, about music that outlives the people who create it. Finally, Marcus walked on stage with Lila. They sat side by side at the piano. Marcus placed his damaged right hand on the keys. Lila placed her small hands beside his. They played Starlit Promise together. But this version was different. Marcus had written a new ending. The original song ended quietly, like a question left unanswered. This version built to something stronger, hopeful. Lila played the final notes with her father's hands guiding hers. When they finished, the audience stood. The applause was long. Marcus lifted Lila and held her close. He looked out into the audience and found Evelyn in the front row. She was crying, not from sadness, from relief. After the concert, Marcus found her in the lobby. Lila was signing autographs for the younger students. She was laughing. Marcus stood beside Evelyn, watching his daughter. "I never thought I would see her like this. Happy. Safe." Evelyn looked at him. "You gave her that?" Marcus shook his head. "We gave her that. You could have walked away. You did not." They stood together in silence. The hall was emptying slowly. People lingered, talking about the music. Marcus finally spoke again. "Julian would have liked this, all of it." Evelyn smiled. "He would have." Lila ran over, holding a program signed by all the performers. She handed it to Evelyn. "This is for you, because you helped my daddy." Evelyn took the program carefully. She knelt down to Lila's level. "Your daddy helped himself. I just made sure people were paying attention." Lila hugged her, quick and impulsive. Then she ran back to the other students. Marcus watched his daughter disappear into the crowd. "She asked me yesterday if I was going to keep playing. I told her yes, every day." He looked at Evelyn. "I forgot what it felt like, to make music and not be afraid." Evelyn stood. "You should never have had to be afraid." Marcus nodded slowly. "Maybe not, but I was. For a long time." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Thank you for believing me." Evelyn shook her head. "Thank you for not giving up." Marcus smiled. It was small, but real. He walked back to his daughter. Evelyn watched them leave together, Lila's hand in his, both of them laughing about something she could not hear. She stayed in the empty lobby for a while. The memorial plaque on the wall had been updated. 2 names now, Julian Brooks and Marcus Reed. Composers, friends. Evelyn touched the plaque gently. Then she walked out into the night. The city was loud and bright, and full of people who would never know this story. But it did not matter. The truth existed now. The music existed. And somewhere in a small house on the north side, a man was teaching his daughter to play piano. Not because he wanted fame, not because he needed recognition, but because music was the only language he had ever truly understood, and he was finally free to speak it.